Joining us now in our Olympian series is Sydney 2000 gold medalist Debbie Watson. You had quite a long journey for your first Olympics, the first time that women competed at the Sydney 2000 Games.
Yeah, it was pretty long time actually, but I was always hopeful. Way back in 83 when I first made the team, we thought it was going to be 84, 88, and it went on and went on. And, eventually we did finally get the dream of going to the Olympics in 2000. So yeah, it was a long journey, but well worth the wait.
So that was a culmination of 17 years in the national team for you to get that Olympic gold medal around your neck. The feeling at that point, obviously great joy, relief. What was going through your mind?
It was sort of hard to believe, actually, like all of those things, obviously, but also just, we've actually done it. It was almost like that pinch me moment. Like, could this actually have happened? And, I remember just so much about it. And after the game had actually finished and we're standing on the sidelines and, the crowd were still going berserk and we were just so excited, but it really was disbelief that, this adventure had taken so long for women's water polo to get there and that we finally had achieved, pretty much the ultimate dream.
So the photo behind me there, that takes you back to 2000, almost 20 years ago yourself. Just over my shoulder, you've got Yvette Higgins there and Naomi McCarthy we spoke to a couple of days ago.
Yeah, no, she was my roomie actually when we had our little trek up to Kiwana, which was our base camp before the Olympics, which was the time of our lives. It was sort of all I'd ever wanted to do was to train only for water polo, and I got to do it for maybe 6 months. And Noam was my roommate. So yeah, we shed a lot of blood, sweat and tears together. We ate a lot of food as well. But yeah, great roomie and I was very lucky. But yeah, terrific player and a terrific person.
So where were you when they made the announcement that women's water polo, do you remember that moment where you were? When they
Yeah,
said
I do actually.
women's...
I was in my lounge room at home because I was in my little hiatus, I'll call it, after not being part of the national program for probably about 18 months after we won in 95 World Cup at Sydney. And then, I just, well, it's another story in
You were
itself.
in
But
exile.
yeah, I was in exile. That's a good way to put it. And yeah, I remember sitting. I was just watching the news, and Channel 10 News came on, and there was Taryn, Bronwyn, and Liz. I'm pretty sure, and they were sitting there. It was like came up breaking news, and there they were, and it was announced that women's water polo was going to be in the Olympics for the very first time for Sydney. And I remember just feeling elated that it had finally happened, but at the same time, absolutely devastated that I wasn't part of the team, wasn't part of the process anymore. And obviously just so many mixed emotions. And I just thought instantly, I have to try. And yeah, I'm glad I did.
Yeah, so you obviously kept trying, and a masterful coach in Istvan Gorgeni came into the program about 2 years before Sydney, and you were invited back into the program. And of course, there's no guarantee of being selected, but you would have done absolutely everything in your power to make that team.
Yeah, I was still, look, my fire in my belly was still burning, even though I was in exile, I wasn't part of it. I still desperately wanted to be part of it. I was still playing for New South Wales. I was still playing for Sydney Uni. I was still keeping very fit. I was doing lots of different things, trying to keep busy. But at the same time, I was still trying to, get back into that team because it really was where my heart was. So, it was very important for me to really have that go and to dust the cosy off to have a go at trying to get there.
And the moment you were told you were going, did you get a phone call from the AOC? Did you get a letter? How did they inform you back in pre-2000?
Yeah, we did. We got a letter. We were a really strong unit. And, yes, we're a team of 13 that went to the Olympics, but we're in a much bigger squad up in Kiwana. There was 20 of us. And so we were very mindful of the fact that 13 people were going to be elated to receive a letter and that there were going to be a number of girls that were going to be devastated that when they got their letter, it said that they'd missed out. So we made a team or a group agreement that the letters would be delivered to our rooms and that we weren't allowed out of our rooms basically until, I can't remember the exact time, but it was, 15 or 20 minutes after they'd been delivered, because it gave people the time to digest whether they were in or out, and just that moment of privacy, I suppose, to be elated or devastated. And then we all went off to meet in a designated area for the people that were actually selected. So Yeah, I do remember receiving that letter, and lots of our families actually had travelled up to Kawana to be there for us, whether it was good news or bad news. And you know, obviously, luckily for me, it was good news. But the girls who missed out were still a very important part of the whole process. So you know, like you need a really big base around you, or a big group, to make sure that the competition's tough to get you there and to keep you on your toes. So you know, as much as it's 13 people walked away with gold medals, obviously there was a huge amount of people that were involved in the whole process.
You've said it yourself in the past, and Naomi said it in her interview, that a lot of it was done for the women that paved the path going back. And obviously early in your part of your career, you played with some fantastic players who their careers were over, and so the Olympics was never on their horizon. But the gold medal was for a lot of them.
Most definitely. I made a promise to myself, actually, that I would make sure that I could include and take part as many people with us on the journey as I could, because you know, these are people that I had played with and against for years and years, and it was just not their time, and they were definitely good enough to be Olympians, and they were definitely good enough to be Olympic medalists. And you know, some people missed out by 6 months, some people missed out by 16 years, you know, like there was no rhyme or reason for it. And it was very unfair, and it would have been devastating. Again, it would have been those real incredible mixed emotions, that they would have been so happy for the sport because they had, you know, truly loved it. But obviously on an individual basis, they would have been devastated that they'd missed out. So it was very important for us, and it still is, to recognise that women's water polo had been going long before 2000. And as much as we were the fortunate ones that got that moment, you know, to share, it's very important for us to recognise, you know, what went on before us, and you know, as is what's going on now too.
So the games itself, how are your memories in the whole tournament? Obviously, some emotional highs, some hard, like some very tough games. The media had Australia as red hot favourites, but there was 4 or 5 teams that had claims for the gold medal.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't remember us being favourites, to be honest. I really don't. I think no one really cared so much about us. So whether we'll, like, I mean, you probably remember more that we were, like, we'd come second at the World Cup just, you know, not very long beforehand. At the end of '99, the Dutch beat us. And, you know, obviously the USA were very strong as well. Like, I mean, there was lots of competition within that group of who was going to be there. So I don't ever felt like we were the favourites. We definitely believed that we could do it. You know, we knew that if we could perform and hold it all together, that we could. But you know, dare to dream, they say. But I don't actually think we were ever in that position where we thought, you know, like if you know, that we were favourites and that we were going to win. There was so much to happen, you know, throughout that time, and it was very much one step at a time for us, I think, in that tournament.
Yeah, there was a lot of work to do. You had some very tight games when you came quarterfinals, semi-finals, just to book that spot in the gold medal game. It took an incredible team effort through the whole tournament.
Yeah, definitely. Like, you know, it was amazing. And that was the beauty of that particular team. And like the many teams that are champion teams, there's not just one player. You know, sometimes someone doesn't play so, you know, so well, and someone else steps into the void, and you just don't know. I mean, you can't control the opposition, what they're going to do. So it might not always be the same person, or your main attacking player's game, or your main defensive player. So, you know, we had a great unit going in and out of there. So, yeah, certainly in that last game against the semi-final against Russia, you know, was very nerve-wracking. But yeah, again, it was just that pure belief that we could actually do what we were doing. We were very confident in the processes that we had planned all along, and you know, we were very well drilled and confident without being, you know, overconfident. And you know, we just had a great team. It was a really determined team, but we just totally believed in each other as well, which is, I think, what, you know, really helps you get over the line.
The intensity of the gold medal game, very low scoring, 4-3. The goal, everybody knows, 1.3 seconds remaining. Yvette Higgins puts it in the top of the net. A bit of controversy, a bit of drama in the lead up to that, but the crowd, the support throughout the tournament, especially at the final, was just something out of this world.
Yeah, it's funny. You know, I really haven't looked at the game or even much footage. I've seen, you know, that particular probably minute or so of that gold medal moment with Evie's goal. But, you know, I mean, that was our, what was it, our 6th game in 7 days. You know, it was tough. It was really physical. The games were tough. You know, you have all that emotional, you know, excess that goes with it as well. So, you know, it's sort of funny that the game was so low scoring, but, you know, I mean, we were as trained as we could be for that moment. And, you know, I think the calmness and, I don't know, the crowd was phenomenal. Were they too noisy? I don't know. You can't really hear it when you're in the moment, which is amazing, but we certainly heard it at the end. You know, I think they said there were 17,000 people at the games on that for that game. And honestly, I believe in the 20 years that have passed, I reckon I've met pretty much all 17,000 people that were at the game. They tell me where, you know, whenever it comes up, not that it comes up very often these days, but, you know, they're either at Martin Place or, you know, they're at a significant spot or they're actually at the venue. So the crowd was phenomenal. That's a really pleasing thing when I look at some of the footage of, you know, that moment of the goal going in, of the crowd up and down. And yeah, we were very lucky to be part of that.
And I think certainly for women's water polo, it took 100 years for the girls to get into the Olympic Games. And if you stack up some of the great Olympic finals, male and female, over the history of the Olympics, that's certainly in the top 4 or 5 games of Olympic history. It was an intense and incredibly exciting game. For a low-scoring game, I can't even come with words with it 20 years later. It was just amazing.
It was amazing, you know, and for it to go right down the wire like that is just so incredible. And I think it's, you know, it was just meant to be. It was meant to be us and the USA in the final, and please, it wasn't the Dutch. You know, like it really was. You know, you couldn't have scripted it better, I don't think, even if we had absolutely planned it. Was the game really entertaining to watch? I don't know. I've not really watched it. Maybe one day I will for the 20th. But, you know, it's sort of, you're so critical when you watch yourself play, and you do so much analysis as you're going towards the games, and, you know, picking the eyes out of everything you do, that I think that's why I actually haven't watched it, because I'm sure if I do, I'll just be looking at mistakes the whole time. But, you know, maybe one day, maybe in a couple of months' time, I might watch it.
Intense and exciting. That's my memories of the game. It was something else. But the moment you stand on the dais and they say Australia Olympic champions and gold medalists, and you get to stand up there with your teammates that you've been on this incredible journey with.
Phenomenal.
Were you floating above that? Were you standing on the dais?
Behind it. Funny you should say that. I
actually feel. But then you must be floating on top of it once they call it out.
Yeah, I actually feel like I had an out-of-body experience at the moment, which is quite phenomenal because I'm not really into that sort of stuff. But I do remember looking up behind when we were lining up before we went up on the dais, and Kathy Turner was standing up behind and had got herself into no doubt an illegal position, who was, you know, like she was a great mentor for me and a great leading light of international and Australian water polo, of course. But I remember waving to her and just being so overcome with emotion that she was just so proud that we were there. And then we're all standing behind the dais, and when they actually said, you know, gold medalist Australia, I swear that I stood up, but I stayed behind. I was like looking at myself. It was like my body went up on the dais, but I didn't, and I just could see from behind. And then all of a sudden it just clicked in that we were on there, and it was just amazing. But I do feel like I had an out of body experience at that particular moment. It was, yeah, a dream.
And the legacy of that gold medal, it still continues today, 20 years on, inspiring young girls to play water polo?
Yeah, it's funny. I was very lucky that over the last couple of years that I took was part of the Born 2000 squad with Taryn as well there for a while, and which Dishun coached. And, you know, I was very lucky I got to travel with those girls who were born in 2000, which was of great amusement to all of us. But, you know, to see those girls, you know, now starting to come up nearly 20 years later, you know, there's some great talent in there. And obviously, you know, yes, did it inspire you know, more people to play water polo? I hope so. I truly do. And, you know, I hope it continues to, because obviously it is a fantastic game and we want lots and lots of people to play. And yeah, look, people often will say, oh, water polo, it's not really that, you know, it's not really that popular, but It is, and people don't realize, like, once they start to think, oh, well, actually, I played, or my friend played at school, or my kids are playing. A lot of people are playing. We just, because it's not in the paper, people say it's not really that popular. Well, it is a popular game, and I'm pleased, and I do hope that we had something to do with that as well.
And Rio 2016, very special. Each of the cap numbers from Sydney 2000 got to ring the corresponding cap number and tell those girls they were in the team. That might have been a nice moment for you.
It was really nice, actually, and I was very lucky that I got to call Zoe Arancini, and they'd just come back from overseas, actually, and she was pretty much on the, I'm pretty sure she was in the plane still, but they're on the tarmac just taxiing off, and she looked at the number, and it was obviously an unknown number, but she answered it, so it was super exciting. And I played with Zoe's mum and auntie, actually, back in the early 80s, so that was a great pleasure for me to be able to make that phone call. And I think it was really nice, because when you actually are no longer in the team, obviously the team moves on very quickly without you, and that's just the nature of life, really. So it was really nice for everyone to have that little bit of connected behavior, or almost like it was an emotional connection to the team. I think it's something that Australian water polo can really build on, because you spend a lot of your life, you spend a lot of time, spend a lot of money playing the sport, and then all of a sudden you just cold turkey out of it. And I think it's really important. It's much more fun watching people play sport, so whether that be down at your local netball courts, or your club water polo, but especially when it's playing at such a high level, to have that emotional connection with the girls, and is really important, and it just makes you cheer that little bit harder, I think.
And we're not far away from the 20th anniversary of that special day in September in Sydney 2000. Maybe COVID might stop the girls from getting together. I'm sure you'll have a giant Zoom meeting, and there'll be lots of champagne corks popping, and there'll be lots of stories and lots of laughs and lots of memories.
Well, we've had a couple of practices, and we're pretty good at it, actually. So I'll be, look, I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately, this year. We certainly were already making plans earlier in the year, and we've been talking about it for a while. So it is, obviously a great disappointment that may not happen, but we'll just postpone, because, we are champions at catching up, and it's something that we really look forward to. We hired a house a couple of years ago at Byron Bay. We've had a couple now, and we have them as often as we can, even if someone travels interstate for work or whatever purpose. We do try and catch up. You have lifelong friendships, and you might not speak to everyone very often, but it's just like you haven't missed each other at all when you finally do catch up. So look, I'm sure if it doesn't happen this year, it won't hold us back. We'll have another one as soon as we can.
Well, there's opportunities in the last couple of years, the Australian Youth Water Polo Championships, with all the age groups from 12, 14, 16, 18 all come together for national club championships. And there's a lot of former players, Olympians, players that you played with, all coming together with their kids or their helping coach teams. And you have a bit of an alumni get together each January.
Yeah, I know, that's been a real bonus. I mean, my son's not old enough, and I'm actually not so sure he's that keen on playing polo, but who knows, hopefully I can. But I've been lucky enough to go up to help with the commentary with the national teams that have been playing up there. And, having that working hat on at the time, I've missed out on a couple of the big events that some of the players have actually got together and participated in, but maybe that's good anyway. Up to their normal shenanigans, but it is an incredible festival up there, and I think the players, or the old players, enjoy it, watching their kids, obviously, but it's also very nice to catch up. It's sort of fun when they coach against each other too.
Well, thanks for being part of our Olympian series, Deb Watson. Everyone will be having a glass of champagne to remember 20 years on from the Sydney 2000 gold medal.
Oh, why not?